Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Get in the Driver's Seat. We're talking about leadership moments in small to mid-sized professional practice. I'm your host, Sandra Bekhor, Practice Management Coach at Bekhor Management. And I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Trevor Tynes, an SEO consultant running his own agency. So Trevor and I became LinkedIn friends back in 2014. I had to look that up. I just wanted to share with our listeners how this unfolded, because I really think that how we became, colleagues, friends, whatever you want to call it, is sort of a testament to your style. And, I remember we had some early exchanges when you reached out to say hello on Twitter, and then it moved to LinkedIn, and we talked about collaborating on on each other's blogs, writing blog posts together. And I started to watch how you were posting, how you were posting on LinkedIn, and I noticed that you were introducing people. So you would jump into a LinkedIn post, and rather than doing what everybody else was doing, and just remember, this was 2014, okay? Rather than doing what everyone else was doing, which is self-promotional, like transparently, read my latest article, look at me, look at me, look at me. You were saying, hey, you should meet so-and-so. I think you guys would get along. I think you could help each other. And you were saying, hey, I love what you did with this other thing. So you were complimenting people and you were connecting them. And I remember reaching out and saying, Trevor, I like your style. And that was the beginning of our relationship. And in SEO, particularly in SEO, I think there is this need for trust, because people aren't sure it's like the black box, what's inside there. And because you had this transparent manner and it was so clear what your objectives were, I felt immediate trust. And that sort of laid the foundation for what became a very, very good relationship. Okay, so welcome, Trevor.
Thank you very much, Sandra, and it's fantastic to be here. And thank you very much for your kind words and remembering our how we connected and ultimately for having me here.
Well, I am looking forward to a very engaging conversation, like the ones that we always have.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about authenticity. This subject comes up everywhere I go. I remember going to conferences, law firm conferences, and watching a heated debate in the audience. Seriously, hundreds of lawyers debating about this while there's a round table happening on stage, and the whole audience is like, like, well, I have something to say. And really, the biggest problem in the debate is that people did not agree about what is the line. What is the line that you don't cross? So this is me personally, and this is me professionally. How much do you share? How much crosses the line? And they did not agree. So I want to understand from you. Tell me, what does authenticity in professional life mean to you?
I don't feel that there is a strong or definitive line between my personal life and my professional life. I'm going to be me no matter what. There's a lot of me that I share out there on social media in conversations, particularly with my past life, and what happened and what led me to who I am now, that ultimately I know can help people. And there's a fellow who's been doing podcasts for a long time in performance and business. His name's Ed Milet, and I think you mentioned, or I mentioned him before to you. And what I heard from him one time was, our tests eventually become our testimonies, and whatever we go through, we're not the first people that are going to go through that exact same thing. Maybe it's not identical, but it's very similar. And our ability to get through our progress or our ability to overcome what we got through eventually becomes our testimony. And in those testimonies are the the little nuggets in which we can help others. And this is what I feel less like our purpose is here on this earth right now, is like Muhammad Ali said, our the rent we pay here on earth is service to others, right? And that's essentially how I try to maintain my my path forward, how I try to live my personal life and my professional life. And at the end of the day, authenticity means just being me and being open. You know, if I'm like we talked on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and we were supposed to have this interview a couple of weeks ago, and I shared with you that, you know, I wasn't feeling, wasn't feeling on my A game, and but I'd come up and I'd put my best foot forward, and you gave me the opportunity to reschedule, which I greatly appreciate. And the reason being is I would have had to wear a mask that day, and I wasn't going to be, as authentically enthusiastic as I generally am, and it would have been more difficult. There would have been, there would have been an outward Trev, and then there would have been the person in the background who was struggling. And I do struggle all the time. And it's only because I'm human. And this is, this sort of openness in personal and in business life is important to me, because I don't want to be, well, I don't want to say inauthentic, even though I just did, but essentially dishonest. And honesty is important. Transparency is important. And human connection is actually the most important to me. And at the end of the day, if I'm being authentic, if I am, sharing stories of struggles as being a parent, sharing stories of struggles being a leader, a business owner, a partner, then I am, opening up the doors or the windows to my soul, to my inner self, and letting, other people who I know deal with the same things, who they don't know me, I don't know them, but it's opening up a path to create that human connection. And at the end of the day, that's going to allow me to create a tribe of a group of people who have similar likes, similar struggles, just who are very similar to me. And if I sort of repel anybody, and you know what, it's inevitable that I'm going to repel people just from my personality, even though I love my personality. Not everybody's going to like me, but a lot of people are. And I spent a long time of my relatively short life trying to please and trying to have everybody like me, when it's literally impossible. So if in my effort to be authentic, and I push people away, I mean, that's just the way it is. And it just makes the group of people who I am connected with, that much more special.
So a leadership style is marked by their relationship to risk. At least I think so. And so I wanted to understand, Trevor, in what ways have you been willing to face your fears, and why? And can you talk about the result?
I decided to hang my own shingle, and start this consultancy just as I had a newborn. And we had two incomes, and my partner Yvonne, she was at home taking care of Jackson. And this is when I had the bright idea to try to run with it myself. So it was a big family risk when I started recording videos for business. I experienced those exact same physiological fears, dry mouth, elevated heart rate, stuttering over my words. And that very first video was absolutely garbage. But with little did I know that I actually like being in front of the camera. I like recording myself. I like sharing my thoughts, sharing my strategies, sharing my ideas. And it's all because I faced those fears.
Destroying limiting beliefs. I really feel like that's why I started my business, just to help other people with that. That is such a powerful phrase, what you just said. And it's okay. So starting your own business, yeah, duh, that's huge. For me too, right? To start your own business, that's like one of the biggest fears. And we did it, a high 10. and 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 then, you know, doing the public speaking, which is a very common fear for people. So do you have a, I mean, you've obviously, you look like you feel more comfortable now than that video that was garbage that you say it was garbage. I didn't see it. But do you have a, I don't know, a method, or is it just doing it?
If my life is not at risk, if my family's life is not at risk, if I'm not jeopardizing somebody else's livelihood, and ultimately if it's bringing me towards my goals of helping others, then really the fear is only selfish. And by taking that action, that step forward, then it's already almost over. It's already conquered.
That is so much more than just doing it. Really, what you just said is about being connected to your purpose. And so you have such a strong connection to how doing what you do helps other people, that that it's stronger than the fear.
Absolutely. You nailed it. And I thank you for acknowledging that. You articulated it so much better than me.
Well, I feel it. And I want to say it reminds me of what I learned from Toastmasters. So I don't know if we ever talked about this, Trevor, but I did Toastmasters for a few years, rather late in life, actually.
Yeah.
And that was, I, I was president of my club right up to when the pandemic started.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I literally was the president of the club that took them to online. That was the
Oh,
very end
okay.
of my presidency. And when I started, okay, so I was already an experienced speaker, but I had specific goals in mind, which I worked on, and you know, and I sort of, you know, just focused on doing the work. You know, I signed up for speeches, I signed up for everything, and I was very focused on meeting my goals, and I did.
Mm.
But what I learned at the end of it surprised me. So after the 2 years with Toastmasters, I thought about it and I was like, you know, there's one thing I learned. It's not about me.
Ah, yes.
And so it was like this epiphany. You know, here I am nervous before I get on the stage to speak to hundreds of people. But once I get going, I really like it. So I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not about me. They're not showing up to criticize me. They're not saying, oh, you know, I'm gonna carve out 3 hours of my day to drive down to that conference just so I can see how Bekhor manages to mess it up. That's not why they're there.
Yeah.
And so why are they there? And when I start to connect to why are they there, they actually need something. You know, these are busy people and they took time out of their day to, even today, if it's to watch it on Zoom, they're busy. And why are they doing this? It's because they need something. And so when I start to connect to the thing that they need, I've forgotten about me. I'm not scared. Now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna help you. So okay, so the
That's
next.
incredible. I'm going to interrupt you. I just have to say that's incredible. It reminds me of a time um, when I would speak in front of people and talk about very emotional and vulnerable things of my past. And um, I told this fellow named Gord, I'm like, oh man, I'm really nervous. He's like, you know why you're nervous, Trev? It's only because you're thinking about how you're going to come off and how people are going to judge you, and you're only worried about other people's opinions, rather than the purpose of you being out there is to only help. And you said it, you nailed it, Sandra.
Yeah. Laugh at, you learn to laugh at yourself a little bit, and it makes it easier.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, even if we do mess up, we 100% of us, of us 8 billion people, we're focused in our brains. When we're not talking, we're usually having a conversation with ourselves, and it's very much focused on ourselves, and everybody's either they've got some issues at home, some issues in the office, some insecurities, whatever it is, and they're mostly thinking of themselves, right? And within minutes of our own screw ups, even though we'll sit on it for perhaps a day, two, a month, 20 years, who knows, most people have already forgotten it within minutes, right? So when that's it.
That's right, they've moved on to the next thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so Trevor, anybody who looks at your resume would know that you are a very analytical person. And and for our listeners, if you haven't seen an SEO report, it is mind-boggling. Really, the tables with the numbers and the little, cryptic acronyms really have to be focused and able to sort of synthesize lots of data to be in this business. And yet, you share these very deep, profound thoughts, which seems to me the other side of the brain, and online and in our conversations too. So just wanted to ask if you could share a little bit more about what or who inspires you to do your best work.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you again for asking that. Well, first and foremost, it's going to be the who's are Yvonne, Jackson, and Sophia, my family. They're number one. They are why I do everything. It's like I shared before, it's that opportunity to support them, show them what's possible, and this is how I associate what my work does for others. A lot of business owners, and I work with, small business owners, mostly no really big enterprise, well, no enterprise work at all. And a lot of people are, their livelihoods based on their families, or their businesses, so that they can support themselves, their families, and like the idea that what I'm doing can help others like that, whether it's send their kids to university or college, just like my goals are, like that's like this is how I fundamentally connect and drive myself to do my best work is my family. And then it's others. It's the idea of helping others, how my efforts directly impact others as well. And ultimately, I also have another purpose, and that's to help others that have dealt with substance abuse disorder, or who are dealing with substance abuse disorder, where I can, through various avenues, take part of my profits and donate that to them. Or to treatment centers, sorry, for clients, or through personal growth, through, talking with Jackson, with, my own personal discoveries of how my brain's working, how I interact and respond and sometimes react to the world and others. And it's my ability to teach Jackson now, and Sophia's only 18 months, but to teach her as well, and ultimately be the best role model as possible to those two beautiful children, and ultimately be the best partner that I possibly can to Yvonne.
And really, isn't that what we were talking about before? It's not just business, it is personal.
Absolutely. It's 100% that.
And that is really how you stay connected to your purpose. So it's not just about, oh, you have this skill. Let's use the skill to make money.
Yeah,
So much bigger than that.
so much bigger. You are absolutely correct.
And in a holistic way, because it's not just bigger in terms of your clients, it's bigger in terms of you're so connected to, when I do this work, I'm helping my family, to grow and be healthy and sustain them. And you feel good about that.
Oh yeah.
Right. That's so beautiful. So tell me, Trevor, about this. I saw that video about you pledging a portion of your revenues to help people suffering from substance abuse disorder. What does making a commitment like this mean to you?
Well, it's there are a lot of times where people who are struggling and are using various substances to self-medicate. They sometimes don't have the financial resources to get the help that they need. And if I can, take a portion of of what I'm doing to help them, then a big part of my purpose is being fulfilled. Now, the reason being is from about 15 until 30, I struggled with substance abuse in various forms, and it looking back, I know it caused me a lot of pain. Really, it was those who loved me the most that were suffering the most, because they saw somebody of so much potential. They saw somebody of great happiness when he was young, not being happy and absolutely not living up to his potential and destroying his life. And there was only three places where that downward trajectory was going to take me. And that was either a mental health institution, imprisonment, or ultimately death. And uh, others helped me get the help that I needed. Others who were very close to me, in direct connection with a treatment center, and then also those people who I met within the recovery groups that I was in. And without their experience, without their hope, without their strength, I know that it would have been a lot more difficult for me to, ultimately become the person who I am, and one day at a time, be free of active substance abuse disorder. And I can help people through, sitting down with coffees and sharing my own experience, strength, and hope. But ultimately, if I can take a portion of what what I earn in an exchange for value of my services, then I am, like I said, I'm ultimately being of service to others. And there's just like with happiness, there's a ripple effect. With random acts of kindness, there's ripple effects out there that we do not even realize. That maybe somebody's having a bad day, and you just do a kind gesture as simple as opening the door or smiling at them or giving them an unexpected compliment. And in that offering of kindness, that actually ripples out. Like, you've changed that person, and then they in turn will be, they might be inspired to be, perform an act of kindness or smile at somebody else that needs it, and so forth. I don't know how many degrees, but it definitely goes out that way. But on the other side of the coin, when somebody's struggling, when somebody's sad, when somebody's having a difficult time, and they are, dealing with physical pain and emotional pain, it's almost impossible to maximize and have an optimal relationship and be connected to other human beings, because of that pain that's being experienced. So in essence, not in essence, in actuality, when we position ourselves to be of service to others, whether it's just through kindness or pledging profits to help treatment centers serve other people, ultimately we're making this world a better place, and that's that's ultimately the goal. And when we actually connected, when I was with the previous company, and we connected on Twitter, the fellow that brought me onto his team, he helped me come up with a little tagline. I don't know if you remember it, but it was a long one, and he shortened it up, and it was ultimately a world built on relationships. That's a tagline that's almost 10 years old now because of my friend Andrew. And Andrew actually passed away in October, just this past October. So
Oh,
I had to,
terrible.
he's a wonderful soul. He was a great human being, and he's going to be deeply missed. But he's the one who introduced me to digital marketing. He's the one that helped me, refine a world built on relationships. And my relationship with him was absolutely incredible in business and personal, and it was truly authentic as well. So that's where that, to tie it up in a bow in terms of the why, the purpose of the pledge is that's the authentic backstory of it.
You just said so much, really, and just that tagline alone, a world built on relationships. That so is your tagline, Trevor. And it echoes what you said earlier about building your own tribe. Because it's not a world built on relationships with everybody.
Mhm.
That's not possible, right? Even though we are people pleasers and we would like everybody to like us, but you sort of picked sort of your slice of the pie and went and built relationships with that slice of the pie. But picking up on what you're talking about with respect to that pledge, it almost makes the people that you are helping part of your family. Like, it's so much bigger than writing a check. At the end of the year, everybody thinks, okay, well, I guess I'll contribute part of my salary to charities. And, should I do the same ones as last year and then just write a few checks? This is different. This is much more personal. When you say I'm going to pledge a portion of my business, that means you're working for them.
You
It's
got it.
very deeply touching.
For them, for their family, for their friends,
Yeah.
and for their family and friends that they may have yet meet.
Yeah. And there's an element of gratitude that you're carrying forward with that, because you're so conscious of how others helped you. And because of that gratitude, you maintain the hope and you maintain the strength. And that, I think, comes right back, feeds right into your business. And it's like holistic. The whole thing comes together, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And I love that you touched on such a powerful emotion, and way of being. We have our Thanksgiving every year. It's here in Canada, and then the next month is in the States. But every day is a great day to be giving thanks and being grateful. And I don't want to say literally, but to me, figuratively, there's an infinite number of sources to be grateful for that we just take for granted most of the time. And I'm so happy that you mentioned gratitude, because that is the foundation, that is the underlying contributor to, frankly, my happiness, and the antidote to any sort of lower negative feeling emotions. Not negative emotions, but uncomfortable emotions, let's call them that. Uncomfortable emotions, right? And whether it's anger or sadness or what have you.
Mhm.
That's and if you're experiencing that in your heart, that's going to come out in business as well, right? So again, it's emotional pain, physical pain. If you can resolve those, then you're going to be operating at peak performance.
Yeah. Life can be hard. running a business can be hard. And if you sort of intentionally nurture that other side of life, the part that is um, fills you up, and gratitude can be one of those things. You almost have to do it on purpose
Oh
every
yeah.
day. And I used to use a gratitude journal, which I
Mhm.
got. I went to it was a marathon meditation thing for raising funds for mental health, and they gave this to us as a gift, and
Oh,
it was
amazing.
on my shelf forever. And then I was like, I should use this, so I did. And then, like, every day it was a gratitude journal. So what am I grateful for in the morning and at night?
Yeah.
And I realized it really is something that you build like a muscle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like they call it practice gratitude
Practice.
for a reason, right? And
Mm,
you nailed it. It's like building like a muscle. It's any other skill. It's, you repeat that action over and over again, and it just becomes part of you. It's that habit
yeah.
of gratitude. And you don't develop a habit unless you practice something over and over and over again. And a lot of the times, most of the times, our habits are holding us back, and we need to identify practices such as gratitude where we need to consciously, even schedule it into, like, I've got on my phone at 9 p.m. it comes up, practice what you're grateful for. It comes
Wow.
up, right? So just like
Wow.
you, you had a prompt to practice that habit. I'm using technology to do it, to remind me, and it ponder, like, and then it gives me that opportunity to ponder what I'm grateful for. And even at the dinner table, we were practicing, and because we eat dinner, our family's dinner, like, we're very lucky to be able to eat dinner together every night. uh Anytime, I actually can't even remember the last time we didn't eat dinner together.
Wow. That
But
is so nice,
yeah,
Trevor.
for sure, gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And we were trying to practice gratitude, go around the table. That's actually the habits fallen through a little bit, truth be told. But we're definitely going to get back into that practice, that habit.
I find that with all of these, I don't know, self improvement or consciousness raising practices, you almost have to switch it up or take breaks, because at some point that robotic nature takes over and it loses its luster. And you
Yeah.
start going through the motions, and you're not tapping into the real you while you're doing it.
Mm.
At least for me, I find that. And then I have to sort of switch to something else.
I hear you. I hear you. I never thought of that. That's such a fantastic perspective, and it's true. Like, even, and to go back to the analogy of the muscle and working out a muscle, like, you work out a muscle, but it doesn't grow until you're resting, right? So
Wow, that's good.
yeah,
That's a
so
great metaphor.
I feel that it's the exact same deal, right? And when you at a certain point, when we're just, always doing something, eventually, like you said, it loses that luster, it loses that emotional attachment to it.
Yes.
I don't know if I shared this with you, but I'm a pretty big fan of Tony Robbins, and in his teachings, in his coaching, in his strategy sessions, um, he says, you have to practice gratitude, but you have to also have the emotion. You have to have why behind that. And
Yeah.
that's where, like, if you think about it, like, anything that you remember clearly is usually attached to a pretty strong emotion. Otherwise, if there's, you know, it just happens, and you're like, oh, I'm going to forget about that, right? You don't consciously do that, but if you think about, like, the most important parts of your life, they're usually like some solid, strong emotions to that. And
Yeah.
when we apply that to gratitude, when we have a because, I'm grateful for this because, and then you feel it, it's really gets into your soul, right? And
Yeah.
it raises you up. It just feels so good.
I'm gonna share a little personal story on this. Okay, so you know, Trevor, but most people do not know that, by day I'm a coach, by night I'm an artist.
Yeah.
And um, okay, so I learned this new technique called Zentangles. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with what that is?
Zen
Zentangles?
tangles?
Zentangles.
Okay, no, I'm not.
It's literally mindful doodling.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a system for doodling patterns and really artistic. It can be beautiful artwork. And I learned how to do this within, one specific teacher's framework. And one of the first steps she said is before you sit down, every single time you sit down to do a Zentangle, the first thing you do is you pause and you be grateful. And I learned that, and I did her whole book every single day as Zentangle, and I followed her system every single time. I stopped, I would close my eyes, take a few breaths, be grateful for the materials I have, be grateful for this time to do some art, be grateful. And the grateful kept growing and growing and growing. And now, anytime I sit down to do art, it doesn't have to be a Zentangle, could be a watercolor painting, could be anything. I always start with the grateful, close my eyes, because I'm trained now to do it that way. And the feelings of gratitude have grown. I'm like, well, I'm with a spouse who supports this. I'm grateful to have these skills. I'm grateful that it fills me up, and so that just kept growing and growing. And it's a very personal thing, but it affects my whole life, including my work.
Absolutely. How did it, I'm going to ask you a question. How did it affect your life and your work?
Ah, you know what? It's so funny. Okay, so first of all, I'm an introvert. Don't look at me, kind of introvert. And networking can make me a little nervous. And but the more I start to be a little bit more engaged with my whole life, the more I start talking about it in a way that's bubbly and you can't shut me up. And then I start sharing things. So networking becomes easier.
Mhm.
And I start realizing other people have all this too, right? Oh, okay, somebody's a musician. They're not just professionals. They're not just lawyers and accountants and consultants. Or somebody's into cooking. And so the more I get more comfortable with all my interests and everything that excites me, and I start sharing with it in an excited manner, I get that back from others.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And that's the beauty of being authentic in relatively difficult situations like networking as an introvert initially, at least. And I mean, I knew that you told me that you were an introvert before, but you certainly do not come across as one. And when we're able to share our passions truly, like you said, in an excited manner, that enthusiasm passes on, and it opens up the gates, right, to make human connections and grow those relationships.
Can you share a story that illustrates your philosophy on building and maintaining relationships?
When we first met, you you had a specific need in terms of SEO, and rather than needing an ongoing relationship and based on a retainer and like full service SEO, you needed just an audit, and I brought, because I wasn't doing really much selling at the time. I was introducing people like yourself to the owners for those initial sales calls and sales meetings, and they wanted only to sell the full service package. You and I talked on the sideline, right? And I actually asked them, I said, listen, since she doesn't fit as a quote unquote ideal client, do you mind if I talk to her, help her out where I can, right? And they gave me the go ahead. So that's really because you had a need, and I wanted to help you regardless of what the like I, based on what you wanted rather than what
I
the
remember
agency,
this.
what the agency wanted, right? And that's not like, and that's what client centric focus means to me. And that's what established our relationship. And I, that initial interaction, that our relationship, is deeply meaningful to me because of that. And that's what the initial video was about as well. That I was stuttering over my words. It
Oh,
was
that's so funny.
I was relating, our interaction. I didn't mention you personally by name, but that initial interaction led me, down the path of entrepreneurship and starting my own business when I did. So ultimately, I could, make connections, establish relationships, and serve others as they need to be, not as I see that they need to be or as I need them to be. Right. So I feel that's that sums up my answer to your question in the most beautiful way possible.
Wow. Full circle.
Yeah,
Back to trust. And in fact, our trust, starting from strangers saying hello on Twitter.
absolutely.
That was it. And the trust happens so fast. And this is it, right? When you really are focused on what the other needs.
Absolutely. And that's why we get along, because you do the same thing.
Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate that you see that. Trust is my why. I did an exercise in, finding out what is your why.
Yeah.
And building trusted relationships apparently is my why.
That's
I think it's
beautiful.
yours too. There you go.
I love it. I love it so much.
So thank you so much, Trevor, for the engaging conversation and for your time and your insights. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely. The feeling's 100% mutual, and I deeply am grateful for you and this opportunity to have this conversation that's actually recorded. We always have these deep conversations, these outstanding conversations, prior to the business section of our calls. And it's usually why our 15 or half-hour calls end up being an hour or more, or at least a lot longer than scheduled, is because we have these very meaningful talks.
I agree. So to our listeners, if you are interested in learning more about Trevor's approach to SEO, go to www.trevortynes.ca, Tynes. Thank you, Trevor, again. You've been listening to Get in the Driver's Seat, stories about leadership moments in small to mid-sized professional practices. I'm your host, Sandra Bekhor, Practice Management Coach at Bekhor Management. Take care.
Take care, everyone.